right, welcome back. I'm Bill Westlake, and this is Bill Westlake Programming. And what we're going to be working on in this series is a framework for application development called Qt or Qt. I don't particularly care how you pronounce it. Most of the people in the Qt community pronounce it Qt. I pronounce it Qt. I don't think there's any particularly thing cute about it. It's a very powerful and useful framework, but Qt I think is more precise because those are the letters. The letters are Qt. It's not Cute. All right. So Qt is installed either it can be installed in Qt can be installed in either Linux or Windows, and it's a cross-platform method of developing not just primarily GUI applications. They are the hardest to develop cross-platform for, but many other things as well. And we'll get into some of those things, probably not everything that Qt can do, which is it is a huge library with a lot of capabilities. We're going to start off by using the widget system and setting up our signals and slots, they're called, which is a method of communication within Qt. Later on, we will get into QML, the somewhat more modern way of doing Qt. I think there's still a lot of use for the widgets method of developing in Qt. So we're going to cover that first, and we'll probably develop some sort of a little application that will showcase and allow us to work with some of the other capabilities within Qt as well, especially their threads, timers, and their networking capabilities. And once again, anything developed in Qt, as long as you stick completely with the Qt capabilities, is cross-platform. We can take it right over to Windows and compile it in Windows, or if you've got a Mac, you should be able to compile it in Mac if you download the appropriate build tools for that, and many other systems as well that it can still run on. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm not going to go through the installation of this. It varies from platform to platform. In Ubuntu, there's just a couple of things you have to install, and when you do, you get this whole variety of tools right here. And the one we're going to be working with is called Qt Creator. Qt Designer is really just for designing the window portion. And I'm, to be perfectly honest, not very familiar with either of these tools. Linguist obviously is for some sort of internationalization, and Assistant, I have never used it. I may look into it and see what it is, but we're going to work with Qt Creator, so I'm going to fire that up right now, and we're going to create a new project. And I've got a place here, and of course the whole project will be available on GitHub once we get rolling here. So we're going to come up here. This is the main screen that you get. You get some stuff that maybe has already been worked on. I'm going to create a new project, and there's quite a few selections, and I'm going to tell you what I'm selecting. I mean, you can do Qt and Python. You can do quick applications, which allow you to put together a great many things, and this all uses the QML stuff. We're not going to be working with that. We're going to start off with the Qt Widgets Application. So we will choose that by clicking the Choose button. And now I've got to select a location and give it a name. And I'm going to go in here. I've got a little area here, and I've got a thing called Qt Tutorial. And I think what I will do is create a new folder under this that I'm going to call Tutorial 1. Just for me. You can call it whatever you want. It won't make any difference. And we'll click Open on that. So now we've got that folder there, and this very first one I'm just going to call the famous Hello World. 2-1- Hello World. How's that? And we'll click next. Now, you've got options here. I'm going to go ahead and use QMake for now. Later on, we may set up for CMake. You can actually use CMake with it very easily. There's a system for doing that. QMake is the build system for Qt, and so we're going to stick with that for the moment. If you're building, you don't have to build Qt applications using Qt Creator. You can do them in Visual Studio Code. At some point in time, we'll be building some stuff that doesn't involve a GUI, so we will be using Visual Studio Code, and I'll show you how to set up CMake manually to do Qt applications, and it's actually very simple. It's only a few things you add to your CMake list.txt file, and it builds them, generates the code that needs to be generated and everything. So let's click next on that one. Details, we'll leave this all fine. Main window, QMain window, all that is fine. Translation, we're not concerned about that right now, so we'll click next. Kits, we want to, you can, we'll get into kits and I'll explain them at some point in time. Kits are a way of setting up a lot of features that you bring into your application. There's a basic one that should come with your system called Desktop. That's the one we'll leave selected for now. And we'll click next, and here's a summary. Add to version control. I'm not going to add it in this. I'm going to add it manually later, so I'm going to leave it off of version control for the moment. You're more than welcome to add it to your own Git or Mercurial repository if you wish. So we'll click finish on that, and now we'll take a quick tour of what this GUI. This is an IDE. Is what it is, and it gives us a lot of capabilities. And first thing that pops up here is our main function. I'll go over that in a second. Up here in the upper left hand corner, we have our project files. There's our header file, a couple of CPP files, and our main window form, and we'll be looking at that. And this is where we can actually do GUI building of a window, putting controls on it and so forth. So a Qt application consists of these basic operations that we want to perform. It's going to fire up the Qt application, which is the actual behind the scenes background stuff that runs and makes it work, makes the whole application work. It's going to create a main window, which is what we have the source code for here, main window. It's going to show the main window, and then it's going to return a.exec. A is our application, and this won't return anything, of course, until exec returns. And exec is what's going to run the threading behind the scene that makes the GUI work and operate and handle everything. So a lot of capability is hidden from us and right inside these two calls that make this whole Qt platform system work. Our main window header file is it's a QMain window class. It's based on QMain window. We can derive from any Q object within this system and add our own capabilities for it. In this case, our main window is a QMain window. And there's some macros you have to include. This is just a macro. It sets up some initialization stuff at the beginning of any class, and it has to do with the code generation system, which I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what happens in that. You don't have to worry about it too much, but it's nice to know it's there and kind of get an idea of what it's doing. This is our constructor for our main window, and it always takes a Q object pointer, but for a top level thing like the window, it can be null, which is fine, null pointer, which is fine. It has a destructor, and then it has this special object here called UI. And up here, you'll notice that we're forward referencing this, pre-referencing this main window, class main window, in this namespace UI. And that also has to do with the generation process and recognizing our main window from stuff in here and in other areas. So we'll see how that works. The generation process makes things a little bit tricky at times, but I'll show you some ways to make sure that everything comes out right. Our main window CPP file right now just has the basic setup. This object here, UI, will become very important to us. This is where we access. UI is it's something included in any kind of window like this. It's where we will access all the controls that we place on the window. And then finally, our main window UI opens up here as a GUI window that we can drag and drop and place controls on and create menu bars and status bars and all that stuff. So let's start off right here and let's just put a simple button on our screen. We just take and drag a push button over here and drop it in the window, and it becomes a push button. Over here on the right hand side is some properties, and we can change the name, and I like to change the name of these kinds of things right off the bat, and we're just going to call this our hello button because we are writing hello world GUI style, and that will be our hello button. You can go down here, you can change the font of this, you can change the font size, you can also style these controls. And let's see if I can find it here, because it's not, there's a lot of properties in here and I lose track sometime of where things are. Well, we can, for instance, go to the font and click on this button here and choose whatever font we want. And we can click on, I believe this button just resets it to default. There's just a whole variety of stuff. We'll take a look at them as we get through things. There should be, oh, style sheet. Here it is. I knew I'd find it. Okay, so here's the style sheet where we can actually style it, adding actual style just like you would in a web page into this box. We can add resources that are loaded into it, add gradients of different kinds, add colors of different kinds. So let's add red, but we need this to be the background, so that would be not a resource. So I believe it would be background colon. Click OK, and our background of our button is now red. We can go to the style. That's interesting. Can't you edit the style? That's odd. Okay, so it kind of disappears once you put it in there for some odd reason. So we've got a button, and let's change the color of the foreground color of this, the font color. Is that under font? I don't think it is. I've said there's a lot of stuff in here, and it's difficult at times to keep track of where things are. I think I would just have to go in here and change it to color colon black. There. That's a little easier to see on our red button. Okay. So having done that, down here in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see some buttons. This one here will run our application. We can choose here what kind of profile we're looking at. We can run the application. We can start debugging of the startup project, and then there's a various, and then we can build the project as well. This is a convenient button down here because after you do certain things in this system, you really need to run a build so that it knows, it can generate the code and knows what's going on with that stuff. And I'll talk about that when we run into it. So let's just hit the run button now and see what our window looks like. And so there's our main window. We haven't changed the title yet. We've got a push button here, and the push button works. It changes its appearance when we click on it, but it doesn't do anything. So the question is, how do we make it do something? Well, actually, it's fairly simple. We're going to right click on this and come down here to Go to Slot. And when we select Go to Slot, there's a bunch of different slots. Now I'm going to talk about slots and signals a little bit in this video and a lot more in the next video when we build some custom signals and slots. But right now, a slot is something, it's a piece of code that will be executed when a signal is fired. And this button will send a signal, and the signals it can send are the slots it can call are based on these, and they're based on signals that it sends to the window. So we want clicked, and we'll click OK, and we immediately go to our main window CPP file, and we're in our on hello button clicked. So we called it the hello button, and we clicked it. What can we do from here? Well, we can do a variety of things, but we're going to go back to our main UI window first, and we're going to add another control onto here. And what I'm going to add is just a label, and we'll put it in here, and we'll spread it out, and we'll go down here to the font, and we'll make it a lot bigger. We'll make it a different kind, maybe this kind. Select, and then under the font size, we'll increase this a bunch, make it nice and big. And if we want, we could come down here to our style sheet, click on this, and say color : blue. Okay, and so there we've got a blue label. All right. Now I also want to rename this so I know what to call it. Right now it's just called label. We're going to call this message text. Okay. So we can go back to that slot if you want. If you've got a lot of stuff going on and you want to be sure you get to the right slot, you can always go back to Go to Slot and click on Clicked, and it'll take you right to it without regenerating a new one. And in here, we can now access that label. This is using this UI object. But I believe, let's try this, UI pointer. And we notice it's not showing up on IntelliSense. And the reason it's not showing up on IntelliSense is it doesn't really exist in code until we run a build. And so let's run the build. And down here in the lower right hand corner you see this. It looks like it's done. Now we should be able to go UI pointer message text, and now it showed up because it did the build. And this is also itself a pointer. And we want to call set text, and we'll just set it to hello world, like that. And of course we want to end our line in a semicolon. So a very simple application. Let's run it and see what happens. So here's our window, and we have a push button. And we have a text label here, and it just says text label because I never changed the default. But we click the button, and it says hello world, and it kind of runs off because I didn't make it quite big enough. But that's okay. Clicking the button changed it. So how did that happen? Well, it happened by the button sending a signal to the window that is connected to this on hello button clicked handler, and it called this and set the text on the message. So why is that important, and why is it different? Signals and slots are a little bit different than other systems that use callbacks or different kinds of messaging schemes and so forth. the signals and slot systems is part of the Qt's infrastructure involving its way of handling metadata and meta operations and meta functions, and it can cross various boundaries. It can deal with the UI thread versus the threads that you create and timers and all kinds of other stuff, and it keeps all those threads safe and straight and passes information between them in a safe manner. And we'll get into that when we start building multi-threaded applications, and we're going to do a variety of things with threading, as well as making a TCP/IP server using Qt. We'll do that with Visual Studio Code, because it won't involve a GUI. Though you could do it in here. You don't have to do a GUI in here. You can do a console application in this tool as well. But I happen to like Visual Studio Code. The main reason I use this is because of this GUI designer and the ability to manage the slots more directly. So that's why I use this particular tool. So that is an introduction to this. Signals and slots, I'll go over them briefly. A signal is something that a particular object within Qt emits. There's no direct implementation of a signal. It looks like a function call. You don't implement it. The framework implements it, actually generates code involving that signal, and use a special keyword called emit. And it's a keyword. It's not like a function. And the reason it's a keyword is because, and we'll talk more about this as we go along, is Qt has a code generation system. And it actually reads, it's like a super preprocessor, similar to the preprocessor that handles include and define and all this kinds of stuff. There's another preprocessor that handles things like this slots keyword. And generates code accordingly. This is not normal C++ code. There's no such thing as private slots in the C++ standard or the compiler. The preprocessor handles that and uses it to generate the actual code that this is going to be based on. And there's a variety of these things, and one of those is emit. When we create a signal, we'll just create an entry up here called signals. It'll look like this. I'll just type it in real quick, won't hurt anything. Signals. Okay, it's very similar to the access modifier, signals, and we'll create something like void my signal. Now, signals and slots can return values, and they can take parameters. And there's some rules about how signals connect to slots. The signal is kind of the higher order thing, and so the parameters must match the slots parameters must be able to match to at least some of the signal parameters. If this signal sends two integers, a slot that it connects to could take one integer, but it has to at least take an integer. It has to take something or nothing. It could take nothing. In which case it'll ignore it. On the other hand, if this signal were to be like an int I that it's sending, and I tried to connect it to a slot that takes a string, the compiler will not allow that because there's no, that doesn't match. But my slots, so slots are something you implement just like we did here. This is actual code that we write in the slot, and it's the thing that a signal is going to connect to. And we'll see in the next video how we connect signals to slots across different objects. And later in the third or fourth video, we'll start working a little bit with threading using timers, and we'll see how timers have signals on them that can be connected to slots in our code, so that the timer will call those slots when the timeout runs out and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out for now. That was just part of the explanation of that. That's a very brief overview of the idea of signals and slots. As we start working with signals and slots, I'll explain them in more detail, and we'll get a feel for how they work and how they can be used across a variety of systems. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you really liked it, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.